Oh, yes. Skepticism is so addictive. It's like chain yourself to a rock and no one can take you away from this rock. And that's your freedom, right? That's your power. It makes sense. When you get exposed beyond a certain range of possibility, a certain range of lies, it's very destabilizing and many influences can start to pull you around. One of the most crucial early lessons I learned is that every being, every force that can talk to you psychically isn't trustworthy. It's not explicitly that you have to worry about liars. It's that every being has an agenda and a limited perspective. And the simple capacity to communicate this way is not necessarily an advancement. Now, it's an advancement coming out of many societies and many preconceptions and many experiences. But it isn't an advancement universally. Universally, it's kind of normal to be able to communicate psychically. And in fact, one of the major reasons we incarnate is to exist within a body that's free from the pressure of being chatted at all the time. It's extremely destabilizing. And there are reasons people might want to chain themselves to a rock. When you start recognizing the truth beyond what is normal to you, it's like being unmoored. Today, I'd like to talk with you about one critical lesson. There are many facets to this, and it's honestly very destabilizing. It's also not talked about enough, I think, in part because it's simply a threshold that many people haven't crossed. I don't mean to be obnoxious. I don't really care about my ego in this regard. This is real. This is something that you can learn to embrace. And I invite you to entertain the possibility that what you think of as heaven and enlightenment aren't real. If you're trying to create a conception of something without having experienced it, by necessity, you're kind of holding a speculation or something you've pieced together from others' ideas. So just try this on. I'm telling you that we can actually break down the facets that enable us to get in touch with a higher source. And that higher isn't just higher. It ends up being universal. It ends up being an expansion in every direction. But you have to start with this concept of something that you're embracing that's far away, and then get in touch with it in a way that makes it normal. And today, I'd like to invite you into a crucial piece of how to do this. It might surprise you. First of all, Michael is with me these days. He's been working with me in a way that this is not explicitly channeled, but it kind of will be during occasions. And in fact, I love this because I can dip in and I can learn things I haven't known fully before. There's a sort of an angelic universal truth whereby if I've learned a certain range of knowledge and insight, if I've embodied it to a certain extent, until I share it, until I communicate it, I can't get further. That's just like the way. You have to allow spirit to flow through you and move on to others. So I get very excited about these opportunities where I'm sharing at the edge of what I know, and I'm eager to gain deeper insight. And that possibility is here with us today. So I just invite you to be a part of that, aware of it. I'm circling in on a truth that's been with me for a long time. I learned this in 1999. And I'm stepping into it carefully because, goodness, I could argue that it would take, a year of study before you should really try to embrace this, but that's not the nature of YouTube. So I'm at least trying to put some warning signs on it. I don't know that you could really break anything or hurt yourself, but you could get confused. And I want to be careful when I expose this to a broader range of people. I don't know what could fully happen. And I urge you not to push in extreme ways that you make up on the spot. This disclaimer might take a while, okay? I'm going to set you up for this. Once I was studying Kung Fu. This is part of the warning label. Don't do this. Once I was studying Kung Fu, and after watching me for a while, the teacher said, you're holding your shoulders too far forward, and you don't have enough leverage when you're moving your limbs. You're kinking up your energy in your shoulders. So for the next day and a half, I held my shoulders back like this, like all that I could. We went out to dinner and I was like eating like this. We were walking, I was pushing like this. I got a splitting migraine. Now, on the surface, it wasn't totally irrational. I told myself that I could change this quickly. I didn't know how to ask questions about setting up, the nature of why my shoulders were working in that way. I didn't know anything about the potential that this is holding experience and energy and emotion, and that the fastest course from one place to another isn't necessarily straight. So I tried to just straighten them with brute force, and I hurt myself. Don't do that. Don't take what I'm going to tell you in this course of the day, in this class, and find some dramatic way to apply it. Let this be a seed that grows in you slowly, that changes your intentions, that changes your core values. And if you get confused or overwhelmed, honestly, come back to this video and ask questions, and I'll talk with you about it, because this is intense stuff. Preamble number 2. Truth and lies. Truth and lies. What's a lie? I'm going to invite you into a new understanding of what a lie is. A lie is something you tell yourself when you're asleep. Asleep. It is impossible to lie unless you are basically asleep. In fact, the desire to get others to believe in a lie is something that you can only do when you are spiritually asleep. It's not even possible to believe in lies from a certain state of enlightenment, because you understand what they are. A lie is an attempt to create a truth with more power than you actually have. The facts of your reality have some substance. They have a resonance and a presence that you can't just do away with because you go like this, try to create a shield, a veil. But the desire to have that kind of power over reality comes from this place. A place that wants to heal, a place that wants reality to be different than it is. Now, that's not such a bad intention, right? But it can go terribly wrong. Because when you attempt to get other people to believe in a lie, you're essentially trying to attempt yourself to live in it, trying to create a reality that you get to be in when you don't really have enough power to create that reality. And so the diligence that it would take to create that reality for real comes from a deeper space of commitment. The commitment that says you want to be unified. You want to be unified with all that you are. We are fractured. We exist in a fractured way in this kind of a world, in this kind of a body. And it is impossible to believe lies unless you're fractured. You fracture the truth away and you try to hide it in one space, and then in another space you try to focus attention and create what you really want. Well, this can actually end up becoming a blessing. This can end up being very illuminating. You're trying to create what you really want. So do it. Lie to yourself. Tell yourself that there's nothing else out there, that there's nothing other than the earth, that space is black and rock and gas and cold and empty. It's a lie. But tell yourself this. Wait, we are all telling ourselves this, or at least millions and billions of people are. We're telling each other a lie, and we're doing it on purpose. We're doing it on purpose so we can create something else. And in the creation of something else, hopefully we can get our spirit invested in a different way. And once we get ourselves invested in a different way, we can turn around and expose ourselves to the truth. This is one significant way of doing things. But it's time for this way of doing things to end. The universal truth is that there is existence everywhere. Heaven is normal. When I invite you to understand this, you come to a door, and in order to pass through the door, you have to be honest. And now I'm going to give you the key on how to do these. I can see you. I can see you. I can know most of the major elements of your life. You can't lie to me. Not effectively. From a position of deep awareness where I've unified enough of myself in honesty, you can't lie to me. Because when your consciousness exists on a mental plane where we engage with thoughts and words in English and a very limited grasp over the resonance and the presence of the energy that exists as our core, you can attempt to restrict people to a certain range of focus and try to get them, peg them to invest attention in exactly what you say. But that's not all I'm paying attention to. When I communicate with people, whether they're here or on the other side of the world, I simply open my psychic awareness to their presence. And while their words are occurring on one level, I'm aware of this wider range of what's real. And it's not vague. It's as if we all live in little cubicles with doors, and you can lock the door and you can pass messages and, I don't know, through little tunnels that connect each other. Well, as long as that's all you're doing, all you have to go on is the messages people give each other. That is functionally what it is to be in a body. Well, just imagine I know how to reach up and there's no ceiling. Most people don't know how to reach up, so they can't do anything with this dimension of awareness. I know how. We're talking about this as a very fundamental analogy. When you add a spiritual awareness, you're adding a dimension of reality. And it is more complicated than this. For now, let it be the fifth dimension. Now, the reality of this is you're actually adding the fourth and the fifth. Fourth is time. So I have a broad range of awareness of time, which means I can look backwards and forwards. I don't get all the details. In fact, some of the details aren't created. That's not the point. I can see the core frequencies, and I can know where dominant energies are that influence you. This is not a limited experience. This is normal to angels. So the lesson, the key to walking through heaven's door is is to be naked. You are naked to angels. I'm a half-assed version. I'm in training, but it's powerful. I can reach over and see so much about so many people when I just open my eyes and look. Angels, more so. And here's the key. Everyone you know, every being you come across has this capacity already. Their higher self is present in every engagement you share and knows the complete truth about you and your present. When you engage with people, you can't lie. And to walk through the door, begin to live as if this is already true. You are transparent. You are completely transparent. Exist that way. It's actually really relieving. You stop struggling to mold and shape what other people believe nearly as much. And you simply presume truth has the deepest resonance. Truth has the ultimate presence. The truth of who you are, what you believe, how you function, how you react, how you reacted 3 years ago, how you reacted 10 years ago. It's much stronger than anything you can create artificially. So all your stories have to be surrendered to the fire. Now, this is an ego death, and it's possible to go through this and then have to recreate it if you don't remember the lesson. The lesson is that all the work you put into highly structuring and attempting to control the story of your life needs to be burned. You're not burning your life. You're not burning your past. You're burning your bullshit versions of it. And in so doing, you're claiming the surrender to align with truth before it happens. And when you do that, you begin to align with truth naturally. When I communicate with people, particularly when I have tension with them, particularly when I have disagreement with them, I come from this deep space that says, you know everything about me, and I know everything about you. And when people's intentions are misplaced, misguided, they leave. I don't have to do anything. Sometimes it's painful, but there isn't nearly as much fear as there used to be in me, because I just walk through life trusting that the transparency of our presence reveals itself. Ultimately, if you cheat on a partner or on a friend in a less substantial way, you mis you misuse them. You talk badly about them with someone else, and then you go with them and you attempt to be kind. Presume they know that you're treating them badly. They just can't afford to let themselves remember. Their higher self is right there recognizing it. Every time you swear about someone who you're close to, they feel it. They just can't afford to allow that feeling to be part of their consciousness, but they are making a choice. On a deep spiritual level, they're making a choice not to allow the pain of knowing the truth to be a part of their daily consciousness. And if you live with people like this, make no mistake, there is no victory in getting them to buy into your version of reality. There's no win, because you're basically grounding yourselves together in a world full of lies. Do these. Start living like it's all transparent. This is not a blow to your reality. Some people might experience this as, well, why should I be honest if other people aren't going to be? Look, they are being honest. Their presence is resonating the truth, and there's nothing they can do about it. They can put words on top of it. They can bend you this way and that way. They can attempt to manipulate and structure the way people receive them. But it only works when those people are themselves unwilling to be transparent. They also don't want to reveal the truth of the nature of reality to themselves. And thus, you are trapped with people who don't want to be real. And functionally, no matter how effectively you're able to structure other people's perceptions, you're living 30% of your potential, if that. You are severely restricting what's possible. And within this restricted zone, you wake up to realize this is what we call normal. This is what we call normal. We're living within a range of reality, which is itself like a little child playing peekaboo under a blanket. Like, if I put this blanket over me, just over my face, no one can see me. You're seen, you're perceived. It's been 13 years since this ability came into clear prominence in me, where I could just focus on someone anywhere in the world and learn a lot. Now, look, you have some degree of influence over this. If you say, look into me, I can see much more. When you don't do that, I just see the prominence. But lies stand out like a torch, with raging colors. When you present to someone else, the basic patterns of yourself are just present. If you just shut your mouths and stare at each other, the basic presence of your most significant attitudes, habits, and past emotions, it's just right there. And it's like you can see it psychically as like little swirls of color. And then if you focus on one presence of a little strand, you get more information about it. It's not particularly difficult once you get good at it. It's difficult to get good at it. It's taken me a long time. But again, the biggest challenge is really to focus. The biggest challenge is to stay capable of removing myself from what I'm seeing. This is transcendent. And it all stems from this simple little principle. Be transparent already. Think like it's impossible to really lie. Think like it's impossible to really trick people. Think as if it's true, and it becomes more true. You align yourself with it, and you reveal that to a certain range of beings, particularly angels, it's always been true. They've always seen you with complete and utter honesty, and they simply ignore you until you make a deeper commitment to be real. You're completely asleep, and they don't have much interest in you until you transcend any possibility that you're going to feel a good life, experience fulfillment, recognize what it is to be. To be. You can't when you live in a world of lies. And we live in a world of lies. So if you want to transcend it, you actually have to go into what you think of as heaven. Now, this is, this doesn't have to be difficult, but just understand, take everything you think of as heaven and enlightenment, divine presence, and bundle it up and say, of course, once you get used to that, it's going to be normal. This is so fabulously simple. If it's normal, it's totally different than it was when you're first introduced to it. What often happens to people is that they sneak through the door for one reason or another. You find yourself like somehow teleported into a heavenly experience. A fair range of people have done this. But you don't know how you got there and you don't know how to get back. Well, the crucial thing to realize is you will never experience it again in the way you first did. The first way you experience it is transcendent. It's shattering your concepts of reality. It's destroying your ego in the form it used to exist and introducing you to ecstatic love. The feelings are well beyond anything you've ever felt. The colors are richer than anything else you've ever seen. The sense of emotion and presence is dimensions beyond anything that's been normal. Well, if you keep trying to live it that way, it's like trying to recreate the first day of school. The first day of school is the first time you're ever going to see all those rooms, all those faces. It's the first time you'll ever see all those things for the first time. After that, it's never going to be exciting in that way again. Now, what does it feel like for ecstatic awareness to be normal? Start asking that question. What does it feel like if it's normal? A lot of times people are introduced to these extremes because they're trying to escape pain. It's a very normal dynamic. Some kind of trauma will launch you well beyond anything you knew of. And sometimes that lands well. You end up in a very beautiful heavenly space. The concern here is that if you only got there in relation to pain, you're biased, you're tainted. It's like you don't have a clear sense of why you're aiming for such. And what reality will do is it'll just put you back in yourself and say, okay, now heal the pain. But if you just try to get back into heaven because you're trying to avoid the pain, it's like, it's not even rules. It's not mean. You just have to deal with it. You have to cope with the presence of this energy. And that's where this transparent awareness comes in. When I look at people, I know who you are. I know the most significant energies that are moving within you. You can resist the gaze and say, no, I don't want you to see me, and I won't be able to look into, I won't be able to embody the feelings. I won't be able to get the details. But it's not necessary. I can tell, like a glaring fire, right here in your presence, what's most important in your experience. And if you're avoiding some of the most important parts of your experience, it doesn't make them disappear. It just means you're putting an enormous amount of energy into avoiding those parts of your experience. And in so doing, you're wasting it. You're living in a world of lies. You're living a foundation built on a lie that says this part of my experience is beyond me, behind me. I don't need to think about that. But you do. It's right there. It's right there. I can see it. You can't just make it disappear. And thus, transparency. When you live with a sense of transparency, the greatest, most influential forces in your experience, you accept. For a being that has done their work, you're completely transparent. They can see you. And for beings that haven't done their work, they can't. It's really elegant. Anyone who would, consciously wish to do you harm, to manipulate you based on your flaws, your wounds, your weaknesses, they can't really see you very clearly. It's sort of a strict relationship. If they're still cruel, they can't see with transparency. But their higher self can, and their higher self is invariably trying to teach them how to change it. So ultimately, we have this great commonality when we reach for the truth as our core guidance. When we allow the truth, you start reaching, and then you realize it's right here. It's really cool. And I know you've heard this, but go through the arc again and again. You sense it first like it's somewhere else if you've been living in sort of a world of lies. And then you realize it's actually been right here, and you've been the one trying to get out of your body, creating something over here. Now be present with this if it doesn't immediately make sense. If you have a wound, there's a temptation to lie to yourself and suggest that you're over it because you don't want to experience it. You don't want to feel it. And because you have a limited capacity to put your attention elsewhere and be creative, you could create something somewhere else. Well, this is not a bad idea. It's not malicious. It's a normal desire to create something that's preferable to the pain. But it's still a lie if you're generating it as if the pain doesn't exist. So shift it. Use the language. These puns are built in for the correct reasons, for healthy purpose. Rest. Rest and dream. It's a lie, but it's a different kind of lie. It's a prayer to create something else. Now just shift it. Also pray to heal. Be honest. And if you don't know what you need to heal, keep it normal that you pray in the abstract. I pray to heal whatever I have not faced. I pray to heal whatever I have not come to terms with within myself, within my life, within the past. And trust that as you commit to this path, that is enough. It's not enough to do the work. It's enough to bring whatever you need to face to the surface when it's time. And so if you commit to this constant sort of, you are purposefully being transparent to yourself. Now, this is challenging. It's not actually easy to see your own blind spots, your own woundedness. So you build it in as a prayerful intent. I pray to open to what I need to learn about myself, honestly. And when things go awry, when things get confusing, when things get painful, keep praying. I pray for the help I need to really heal this. There is an end to this work. It doesn't go on forever. But it's like mucking around in the compost pile, making sure that everything gets turned over. You can't just hide from anything in your experience. You have to be in a position where nothing is fundamentally, it can be frightening, but nothing is so frightening that you're averse to it in a way that dictates your actions. You can't have any element in you that could be triggered in a way that would prevent you from living. And if you do carry that kind of a fear, whoosh, you're brought down a notch immediately. Well, again, the key is the same. Live like you're transparent. Live like others do have the capacity to see you clearly, even when you do not have that capacity yourself. Let me say hello. Marie, welcome. Thank you for being here. Fatima. Scotland. Oh, man. I've wanted to go there for quite some time, and I've always had a sense of it as a sort of mystic place that's able to hold alternate realities together. Clive, welcome. Thank you for being here. So here's how this progresses. The commitment is simple, but it's relatively terrifying in my experience. You're going into a space where you commit to live in a way that is sort of unrelatable to everyone around you. And my first encouragement is to recognize, I think respect for others is a better foundation than anything else. Basically, recognize that you're making this choice, and that if you push others to try to embody the choice, it won't just backfire, it'll undermine your own progress. It can come from a needy space, because the last thing that holds you back is like, it's kind of, forgive the analogy, I honestly don't know a better one, but choosing to live as if you're transparent is a little like being the first one to like go into their swimming clothes in public. If you're the first one, it feels awkward because you're revealing more than anyone else is. So, be present with the fact that if you need to be this, you might make other people uncomfortable. Now, first of all, you're not doing anything at first. You don't Send out a text memo to everyone telling them that you're changing, but you are changing, and your resonance will affect them because everyone is aware of energy, even though we don't compute it, even though we don't register it. And the extent to which you can avoid that is dependent on how real people are. When you shine brightly and truly, people can't help. They'll think you're attractive. They'll say, hey, what's special about you? They'll say, did you get a new jacket? They won't be able to put it into a perspective, but it'll honestly be impossible for them to avoid giving you some degree of attention for it. Well, presume this is true, and then presume, look, you're learning. I don't mean to be rude, but please avoid the temptation to buy into other people's projection that you are utterly good at this yet. You're not. You're learning. You're learning in relation to angels. It took me 10 years before I was even allowed to teach regularly. For 10 years after I broke through some of these themes, I would get very restricted opportunities where it was extremely clear that it was important for me to explain what I was learning. I would almost invariably be immediately tempted to see myself as an amazing teacher of some sort. And then I would get isolated for a while and told to learn from what I just taught. I'm saying this because I think the temptation is to try to find stability in interpreting yourself in relation to other people. So you take an advancement into heaven, into enlightenment, and you're immediately tempted to sort of be like, I am great and inspiring. Now, you might not think that this is a concern, but I assure you, as soon as you start to resonate with more beauty, people will bend to what you think and feel. But it backfires really easily too. So stay humble, keep your head down, and just be present with how much work you have to do for yourself. There is a very obvious distinction between identifying with your relationship to a community of people and identifying with your relationship to your core nature and the divine. It's different. If you were grounded by your connection to other human beings and human culture, when our human culture is out of a relationship with divinity, it's a simple like shift in tuning. It's really clear to see the distinction. And so when you think of it that way, it's this constant call, get back in yourself, get back in yourself, get back in yourself. But you can't get into yourself if you're avoiding the truth. If you're avoiding anything, you can't stay in yourself. And so the temptation is to go back to holding the herd in a certain way. Well, you could make some choice of what group you hold, but initially you're coming from where you're coming from. You have your friends who you have your family who you have, and you want to be able to engage with them in a way that is not addicted to their perception of you. So this is, again, by way of saying, be light. Own things, believe things, but just be willing to let them go. Because if you're holding too tightly to any understanding of yourself during this phase of transition, it's like a force field. You just can't walk through the door. And it's very painful to learn how to walk through heaven's door and then find yourself back in what was normal, desperately banging on the door and it's locked. Oh, goodness, do I know this experience. Now, again, if you haven't had it yet, I want you to entertain what it would feel like because it sets you up well. And the principle always is that if you can't get back in to the ecstatic presence, really ecstatic, if you can't get back into the ecstatic presence, then there's something to work on. And you could get this to be a really good habit where it's just deeply normal to you. I'm not feeling the way I need to feel. I'm not feeling the way I know it's possible. What do I have to do? At first, this is frustrating. Eventually, it's just like weeding your garden. I've been weeding my garden for 20 years. For 20 years, it's been important to me to have a garden or to work on a farm. At no point do I advance to the point where I don't have to weed. You have to make choices of what you're growing and what you don't want to grow there. So you don't get to the point where you've transcended the need to do the basic work. You get to the point where you love it. You love it. You love tending yourself. It's natural. You know what to do. You don't have to feel destabilized, and you're no longer haunted by something that's hidden. So look, I circled to the beginning in a way that's kind of sad. You do have a capacity to be less transparent. You do. You do have a capacity to hide some things. I've worked with people for a year and I've not been able to access certain aspects of them. There is a potential in us to bury things deeply. But the work you do to make that real is entirely wasted. It's all effort that is out of tune with divinity. Better to step aside and say, show me, show me. You don't have to rush. You don't have to go right at all your problems and like try to dissect them. Let it be easier. Let it reveal at pace. I had one particular challenge that took me 10 or so years to deal with. 12, a little more. I had 3 major phases of facing it. In the in between, I changed, I transformed, I solidified, I rooted more deeply. I wasn't whole. I wasn't fully present with myself. All of the aspects of me weren't here unified and acting together, but I was learning to expand that. So I was taking 10% of me that had been repressed and learning to cope with its presence within me, to heal it, and to be 10% stronger. It's good to go at pace. Patience it really matters. And let me tell you, this is advanced class, okay? So I've started this purposefully to introduce themes and ways of thinking that might be well beyond many. But I know that at a certain point, it's up to you to take responsibility over whether you're ready or not. I can't do it for you. I can't, I can learn a lot about you from a text or your name, but I can't control who shows up and watches the YouTube channel. And I assure you, when 2,000 people watch a video, I'm not going to go through one by one and try to tune in psychically and say, this isn't for you. No, you put principles into place. I pray that everyone who's ready to learn these things with us be present. I pray that anyone who isn't, just naturally turn away. And in so doing, understand, I'm asking more of you. You have to make more of the choices. No one can keep you safe better than you. You have to take responsibility for the major reactions you have to gaining new insight. If I teach you something here and you go and apply it, you have to be responsible for checking in. And ultimately, I can offer my insight and my perspective. And as much as I love you, you have to gain the capacity to tune in yourself. This is all designed to get you to tune in to the love that can guide you directly. It's transcendent. And I assure you, the best way to begin is to say, angels already see me. They already see me really clearly. I allow angels to see me. And from this space, I turn around and I look at humans, and there is no human who is more important than this connection. If you find that a human being has the power to destabilize your faith, be happy, be excited. You've just uncovered one of your weaknesses. Wow, oh goodness, what is it about this person that triggers me? They've made me doubt myself. They've made me afraid that I'm wrong, that I'm crazy. Good, now you know it. Hi. You're not looking at another person. You're being shown a reflection of your own blind spot. So look into that blind spot. What's there? This is exciting. This is work. When you are moving between ecstatic presence of heaven here in you and a numbness that betrays that you've lost heaven, all you have to do is in the numbness say, what work do I got to do? Every time you end up in the numbness, you say, well, where's my work? Where's the change? Where's the possibility of transformation? Show me. I assure you, that is the correct foundation. And when you commit to it, the brakes are built in. There will be years where spirit will naturally guide you to just chill out and get used to the new you. Think of the anxiety that could leave you. Right now, I want to do this together, all right? Be present and breathe. This is a really beautiful depth. So be present, breathe in your heart. I pray everyone who is here, a part of this, listening now or listening in the future, may you become aware of the blockages the wounds, and the repression that most hold you back from your truth. May this happen in a way that you can trust, so that it is obvious to you that it is really your work you are coming into touch with, and not baggage from someone else or from the culture. May you be able to discern which work is truly yours, and may you have the support and the faith within yourself to do it well. May you receive the presence and the guidance that you need to move through it, and may it be no more painful than it needs to be. May you be present with the pain when you have to be, and not shrink from it, facing into that which hurts you in a way that can transform it. May you never settle. May you never settle for numbing out the pain in a way that helps you hide from it, that pushes it back out of your awareness and keeps you small. And may you be patient. May you rest in the transformation that you are a part of, and allow it to unfold in a healthy way, in a good way, such that you can integrate, such that you can enjoy. There is never a time, there is never work that is so important that you shouldn't be able to cherish a glass of water more deeply, that you shouldn't want to run, if not walk quickly, to the door in the morning to feel the breeze for the first time. May you learn to cherish every breath of the air around you, such that all phases of weather are gorgeous. May you wake every day and tune in to the greatest gifts that are possible for you today, and be present with them in a way that you trust. Surrender. Surrender, is often associated with two opponents, two beings that are fighting, and one will surrender to the other, and presumably in an honorable fight, that victor will be gracious in victory. The ultimate battle, I assure you, the ultimate fight is between truth and lies. And the difficult thing to come to terms with is that you are resting in some lies. You are. You're still asleep in a wide range of ways. And make no mistake, when we talk about waking up, this is a different process. This is not like, you're awake. People will often say, I had my awakening. Look, you had your starting to wake up moment. It's crucial. It's awesome. But this is going to continue. It unfolds over time. To surrender is to surrender ultimately to the truth. And that's why Archangel Michael is the greatest warrior. The love that comes from the truth transcends any form of hatred or evil. So essentially, Archangel Michael knows how to love you at your worst. At your worst, he knows how to love you in a way that brings you back into universal love, with a dedication and commitment to do whatever work it takes to stay in tune with universal love. So the greatest challenge in allowing this to happen is to recognize that in some ways you've been fighting for lies. You've been fighting to preserve a lie within yourself. Bow your head, say, I surrender to the truth. And when you do, you're going to find a world that loves you much more than you might expect. I spent so long deeply committed, like passionate aesthetic, I don't need much. I didn't drink coffee or alcohol or have meat or even really eat many sweets for 10 years. And I truly thought I was, a good because of it. Now, in a real way, I think I gained an extraordinary depth of presence because I was such an aesthetic that I gained perspective. But it's not actually what the world wanted for me. Part of this was a wrestling match with the world who said, hey, chill out, enjoy life a little more. You can get so much enjoyment out of simple pleasures. You can get so much patience from realizing that the world loves you, and that when you surrender to the world, when you surrender to her, you're surrendering to your body. This is why this all circles back to the chakra work and the yoga that I invite you to learn. I've done my best to make it as simple as possible. When you commit to it, what you're saying is that the ultimate surrender is to your own body. Your body doesn't lie. Your body shows you whatever needs attention the most. The spiritual resonance that's present is this glaring truth. The spiritual resonance that I can see, that many others can see or sense in a way that is meaningful. The spiritual resonance is naked. It's already naked. It's already revealing. But in order to reveal these things to yourself, sometimes you're the last person who can see. You can't see what's on your back. I can see it easily. Everyone around you can. Well, there's some things that are hard to look at within yourself, and it's your body that reveals them. So when you wake up every day and you stay committed to tuning in and asking, what do I feel? That feeling is the window into the energy that needs your attention. What is habitual in you? What has been habitually bothering you for a long period of time? Ask this question right now. What has been habitually bothering you for a long period of time? What most comes to the surface? That's where your work is. Work there. And presume that that's not actually the core of the problem. That's just what is revealing itself to you right now. This is surrender. Okay? This is surrender. Do any of you take pain reliever on a regular basis? What's underneath that? What are you numbing out? No judgment, but if you're taking pain reliever on a regular basis, are you sure that you're not actually re-wounding yourself on a regular basis? Are you confident that you really have a chronic problem that you can't change? My experience has been that any chronic challenge, chronic, habitual, deep, destabilizing to much of your life, any challenge like this is actually recreated every day. We recreate our bad choices. They're just on autopilot. They're on a sequence that does itself, and you're not in the process anymore. You've let go of responsibility for it for whatever reason. Where is this truth? This is the surrender. Surrender into the truth of where you're doing this. And if you don't know how, start with the intention to learn. Every investment you make in being willing, just by this vaguely, I am willing to learn what I need to learn. Boom, you have just sat a part of yourself at a table. At this table, you're making decisions for your life. There might be 4 aspects of you sitting at this table saying, no way are we ever going to face that breakup. I don't want to think about them anymore. They treated me badly and they hurt me. You got multiple aspects of yourself just refusing to face it. Well, I'm telling you, sit another part of yourself at the table saying, I want to face the truth. And I do these every time. It's like weeding. I do it again. Where in my life, where in my memory is stuck? Just keep doing it. And you get a little deeper because the truth runs deeper than anything you put on top of it. Any clothes you put on a false interpretation of yourself. And just presume that you're doing these. Presume that your stories, what you call memory is not memory. What you call memory, think about this. This is painfully obvious that many people just skip right past it. You think you remember? Do you think you remember the past? Really? You sure? Think about a friend you've lost. Right now. Think about a friend you've lost. You've lost a friend. Think about them. You think you remember them? Tell me about them. Right now, pretend I'm listening, right? Pretend I'm listening. Think through. What are you going to tell me about them? You're remembering 4 or 5 events, right? You're remembering a pattern. Maybe you met regularly at a place. It's like, it's not even a skeleton of the truth. It's just like a bare bones, some small pieces, usually including whatever reason you decided to no longer try with them. Now, this doesn't have to be a failure. It might be honest. It might be good for you. It might be the right choice. But regardless, you don't remember most of what was happening. You've chosen certain particular angles on the past. and they might not even be fully accurate. There are studies done regularly where they agreed to sign up for a study. There's like 1,000 people who did this with 9/11, and they were asked, they were ready. They do this on purpose. They're ready for a big event. And then the big event happens, and the 9/11 one was just a huge breakthrough for them because it was such a big event for people, particularly in the Northeast of the US. So all these people were ready, and then 9/11 happens, and they call them up and they say, write down exactly where you were when you heard the news. And they write it down, and then they give it in an envelope to this study. 10 years later, they call the people up and they say, tell us what was happening. What was happening to you on the day you first heard about 9/11? And invariably, they tell a different story. They tell something totally different. And it's like stupid differences. They're like, I was in the laundry room and I was changing the laundry, and my father called and told me. And then they open up the letter, and it's like they were on their porch and their mother called them and told them. It's like totally different, but for no particular reason. I'm inviting you to presume that this dynamic is heavily affecting your relationship to your past. Heavily. And as a result, you're struggling on a regular basis to piece together your story about life. Now, I don't want this to scare you, but I do want this to destabilize you enough to ask how to get deeper, because the truth is true. That's the beauty of the truth. The truth it wipes away anything that gets in the way. You don't have to fortify the truth. You just have to be it. You have to be present. And if you don't know how to do that, just say, I am willing to be with the truth. And you let that allowance, you let that intention resonate. And every bit of time and effort you put into doing that has a different weight. You could spend an hour trying to write a false narrative, and then the sentence you make saying, I pray to be with the truth, can just dissolve it all. Because it's all happening in this just shallow, ephemeral space. This is transparency. The truth sees. The truth sees. Every moment of your entire life is present here with you. You've heard. Frequently, I imagine, you have heard that when you die, you go through a life review, which is somehow like reliving every moment of your life. It's right there. It exists. And that's the gateway to heaven. When you think of dying and being present in a way that every moment of your existence is right there, it's right there. It exists already. Act like it. Think like it. This gets exciting quickly. It gets exciting really quickly because it's essentially suggesting there's a magnetism into heaven. You've been fighting it. You've been shutting the door. Find out how. When you start to recognize how you yourself have been shutting the door to heaven, it's a lot easier to open the door. Now, that sounds silly. It's actually very accessible. Find the ways in which you are denying your own right to look at the truth. And just sit in it. Sit in it and say, show me the truth. Show me the truth. I'm doing this right now. I had a bad dream last night about some people from my past. It wasn't terrible. It was just very uncomfortable. And I'm sitting here saying, I feel scrambled. I feel tortured. I feel confused. Show the truth. Reveal the truth. Reveal the truth. Be it. When you say that, you can just go right into your core. There's a magnetism of it. Allow this to take you where you need to be. Christopher, thank you for being here. Rosie, thank you. And thank you for the prayer, Cliff. I want to pray more with folks. It's needed. I learned to pray the most critical transition in my ability to pray came from a man named Melvin Bitsili. Respect. He's passed away. He was a Native American, Diné, teacher, shaman, guide. And he would pray right in front of everyone. It's so simple, and yet I'd never seen this before. He would pray right in front of a circle about how annoying we were. He would put the presence of his honesty, and he would cry, he would yell. I'd never seen anything like it. Brought up in this cold Christian tradition. I was raised Episcopalian, God's frozen people, and brought up in this cold, frozen tradition. I thought prayer was this very different thing. And he's like, "You white people don't know how to pray. You just pray like this. You feel, you pray. My mother is afraid. May she feel strong. My father, he cannot walk well. May he find the way to know what he has to do to walk taller every day. May his pain go away from the inside." It's simple stuff, but there's this like naked confidence that it takes to be present with it. And I assure you, it makes a world of difference. Such deep difference. I'm edging towards ending. I I love you guys. I love my life more and more. What I get to do in this work is it's finally making sense to me of all that I've been through. My mind is always something's always happening. And for the longest time, like many, I thought that the goal was to turn my mind off. And I didn't understand that in many ways that's quite wrong. The way I was filtering my mind had to change. So now I'm sort of like I'm getting things spinning and then I'm not being present with them. So I have all these like projects going on all the time and it's like I'm thinking but I'm not thinking. It's like work is doing itself and then one day just comes and it's like time to share it. I love it. And it puts me in a position where I feel like I'm just more effectively being a bridge between the possibilities, the reality that I know become possibilities to bring into this material plane that I share. And when I trust that I'm doing the best I can to do that, I get to rest into like this is me, this is my life, this is my calling, this is my work. And I'm so honored for that to be connecting to you all, sharing and trusting that you have to be stronger than perhaps you ever thought you could be. You have to be the one who wants to get this direct connection to divinity. And I know many of you already have it, and you just want support in clarifying it and learning how to trust it. And that itself is just an incredible honor. I love it. Thank you, Fatima, so much. Yes, work. And I love this work. I really do. One comment that I'd like to share. I'm at a great spot right now. I've been putting all this work into getting down a foundation, and finally I'm like, it's enough. And I got one significant interview, and it's greatly enhanced the channel. I've just passed a threshold that'll allow me to go into the YouTube partnership program, which is going to do all sorts of things. Like I'm going to be able to make a store. So I'm going to make t-shirts. It's pretty cool. Actually, it's fun. It's inspiring. I like being a part of things in this way. And it's great to watch the success happen in a way that's joyful. And far from compromising myself, I feel like I'm being very true to myself. So if there are other shows, sites, podcasts that you love, if you could please comment here and tell me what they are. I'd love to do interviews with more folks. It comes very naturally. I've been working on these themes for so long. I have so much to share, and it's really inspiring and empowering to talk to people who are, they've been exposed to a lot of different seekers and speakers and mystics and teachers. And so they have great perspective and can bring out sides of my experience that are relevant, can help connect to new folks. It's exciting. So if you do, what do you love? Who do you listen to? Who else do you trust? If you could please comment here and share that. And even if any of you have direct connections, I'd love to do more interviews. And I far prefer it coming through you all. A viewer suggested that I contact the Kevin Moore Show. And all I had to do was ask. It's like, why did I do this a while ago? But in many ways, I'm glad because I've been able to work on the foundation in a way I love. I've got a bunch of new projects coming. There's an intense chakra music that it's a great activation. It's all in the circle of fifths key ring cycle. It's very effective. I'm doing yoga with it. I'm just listening to it. We're going to do some strobe light visuals to it that are really, really cool. A viewer from 2.5 years ago, he first contacted me, and he's working with me. He's very, oh my goodness, very supportive. and learning with each other is really inspiring. So I'm developing a team. We've already fleshed out 12 thumbnails for individual videos for all the chakras, and they're going to be great. I've been waiting this long to do it because I really wanted better graphics to help articulate it. I would love help from you all. So if anyone's interested, Rajo, thank you. Rajo encouraged me to contact the Kevin Moore Show, and it just came through so magnificently. This one step made such a difference, and I'd love to find more. And this is all in the Wildflower Fire community space, which you can get to. There's a link in all the descriptions. There's a link off the side of the website. Go there. I want to talk more with people about your ideas. And I'd like to flesh out these 12 chakra videos. Like, what do you need to know about each chakra? I have a script. I want to know how well that reaches you, how well that connects to you, and answers the questions you most want to ask. And maybe you're asking already. So do this with me. Help me. If you have other skills, let me know. It's an exciting time. And I have so many things that I'm learning to juggle at once, starting to feel like, hey, I want to test my limits. How far can this go? You know, how many people can we reach? How much of a blessed channel can this be? Thank you for helping to make it so. I mean it when I say I love you guys.